Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, the 18th of June, the 199th day of the year. There are 167 days remaining in the year 2023. And welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. Well, we're halfway through summer. Have you had your summer vacation trip yet? Today's show is all about travel, how to get there, where to go, personalities in foreign lands, and even closer nearby. And there's always the beach. But if you've been to the beach many, many times, you may want to try something different, say maybe a national park. The country's national parks are awesome. Hiking in a national park is awesome. It clears your head and gives you the physical benefits of walking. If you haven't tried it, you may want to give it a shot. Our G-List guest today is Tammy McDaniel. Tammy is the owner of Tammys Journeys. Tammy runs a full-service travel agency. I can attest that she is a travel and tourism master, and I look forward to that conversation. Our show today is sponsored by the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Best Girl creates the solution that fits your needs. So let's get to our roundtable and go to Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. How you guys doing?
Good morning, Thom. I'm doing well. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, TG. Doing well.
Morning.
Good to see you guys.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Barbara, what's happening in your world?
Well, Thom, I was just going through the internet last night, and I saw just these two funny stories about recent attempts at robberies. There was one gentleman who walked into a nail salon in Atlanta and had had his hand covered and appeared to have a gun in his hand. He walked in and said, "Give me all your money." And the people just ignored him. He walked over to the gentleman who was operating the shop, the nail salon, who was actually, the phone rung. The gentleman answered the phone, didn't even pay him any attention, and the guy just eventually just walked back out. So, it's a new day and age out there right now. People don't even fear an attempted robbery any longer. That one was hilarious to me. They actually showed the video, and it was too funny. He walked in, and people just, nonchalant, and just wasn't paying him any attention at all.
He
Just
didn't
backed
have
out the door.
He didn't have an AK-47. So
The gun wasn't visible at all, but he had his hand covered and appeared to have a gun in his hand. Undoubtedly, he didn't. But
okay.
I don't know. That was just really
I saw
strange.
that, Barbara. Yeah, I saw that. It's pretty funny. The guy himself wasn't intimidating looking to begin with. So,
True.
and he had his hand covered up, and he was going to people pointing, and everybody just ignored him and stuff.
They
And
totally
finally he
ignored
came
him.
up and walked out the door.
Where did this take place?
In
It
Atlanta.
was in Atlanta, in a nail salon.
Yeah.
He, of all places, he wants to rob a nail salon. I mean,
Right.
think about that. Okay,
Yeah.
if you're gonna rob some, go where some money is. Okay,
He walked up to this
maybe
one
they
lady
would have
and said,
taken
"Give
it
me your
more
money."
seriously.
And she said, "I don't have any." Just like that. And, just turned and walked away. And he was like, "Oh, okay."
That's just
That
like
is
somebody
funny.
robbing a bank and using a Prius as a getaway car.
Right.
Hey, my wife's got a Prius now. She ain't gonna like
she
you
not-
talking bad.
But she's not
Okay.
gonna rob a bank and try and use it as a
No,
getaway.
I don't think so. I hope not. I certainly hope not. Okay.
Yeah,
Go
there
ahead, Barbara.
was another one, Thom and Michael, where this guy is robbing this lady. He actually had a gun, and he robs her, and she's like, "I only have $100," and he was like, "You know what? you're too pretty for me to rob. So can you just loan me the money and I'll pay
Yeah,
you back and let's become Facebook friends? It's just really
yeah.
strange. I was like, what kind of world are we living in these
Did
days?
she lend it
She
to him?
actually gave him the money. They became Facebook friends. He DM'd her, direct messaged her, and told her, you were just too beautiful to actually rob. But I'm just going through some tough times, and I needed the money, and I'm gonna pay you back. And and said, even went into as far as saying, I'm interested in dating you. So please forgive me for
Jesus.
attempting to rob you. And she said she finally admitted to him, hey, I have a boyfriend. I'm not interested in a relationship with you. She actually turned it into the police. The guy was arrested. But
Yeah,
those are just two funny attempts at robbery that just blew me away.
that's amazing. Yeah, that
Yes.
is amazing. The guy's got to learn how to be a thief. He got to learn how to rob people.
Yes.
Okay, Michael, what's
Yeah. Well,
happening with your world?
speaking of money, Barbara, and people robbing people, you
Uh-huh.
know, Warren Buffett is known as one of the richest men in the world. Uh,
Hmm.
and there are sites that are saying he's losing almost $16 billion on brand name stocks. And a lot of people will pattern their investments after Warren
After him.
Buffett's
Right.
strategy.
Right.
Well, he has a lot of money in Kraft Heinz, and he's losing $12.9 billion. And it's because of lack of consumer interest in Heinz products.
Mm.
Paramount, he's losing $1.43 billion because advertisers have backed off on advertising on the shows with Paramount, probably because Yellowstone is being pulled off the air. That was the number
Hmm.
one getter.
Right.
And
Yeah,
then Citigroup, he has money in Citigroup. He's losing $814 million in Citigroup. And a lot of
Wow.
that is because of what people consider to be financial instability due to the higher interest rates and then the banks that folded, the regional banks. So
Hmm.
he's losing money there. And the other stock is Hewlett Packard, where it's $616 million. And it's because
wow.
their tech industry portion of the business is just not growing. So,
Wow.
and his strategy has always been to invest in blue chip stocks, and
Hmm.
ride it out and stuff. But even he is losing money. And, for most of us, excluding Thom and you, Barbara, but for me, I can't stand to lose $16 billion.
I
You
don't
know,
want to lose a penny, Michael. I don't want to lose any of it.
so, but just imagine if you lived in that world and
Right.
Yeah,
you invest money like that and you're losing that amount of money. So think of how much money you have. And
Yeah.
and to speak about billionaires fighting, Thom always has this saying that when elephants are in the room fighting, you just stay out of the way.
that's
Well, there are
right.
two billionaire elephants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, that are
Mm.
fighting now because Elon bought Twitter and he's kind of messed it up a little bit. And now Zuckerberg has brought in another competitor to compete with Twitter,
Yes.
called Meta Thread or something like that.
Threads. Yes.
Yeah, Threads. Well, it's so interesting that Elon Musk first challenged Zuckerberg to let's get in a ring and duke it out. Let's have a
I
boxing.
saw
Are you
that.
serious?
Yes, he did. Then this really is really, really funny. And just tell you that you don't necessarily have to be intelligent to be a billionaire. You kind of be lucky. But Elon Musk went on Twitter and challenged Zuckerberg to have a measurement of their manhood to see who's the biggest.
My
And this
goodness.
and he spelled out the D word, Barbara. I hope you can fill in the blanks since you
I,
couldn't
I
fill in
can
the
fill in
other.
the blanks on that one, Michael.
Okay. I saw it myself in writing. He said, let's have a D measurement with
Oh,
rulers.
wow.
Can you
And
Wow.
that would
imagine that?
determine, what would that determine?
I guess who's the biggest?
Yeah. What kind of world are we living in?
sometimes sometimes some people just have too much money.
Too much money and not
And
enough common
uh,
sense.
they ain't got enough to do.
No,
That's
no common
interesting. When
sense
you can
whatsoever.
lose that kind of, go back to the first gentleman, when you can lose that kind of money,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that's pretty incredible. When I think about it, because not having that kind of money, so you think about Joe Tolles and people who are doing the wonderful work that they're doing in society and how that could help them.
Yes.
If you would just take a fraction of what you're losing
Right.
and put it into, what's the book, The Spirit of Christmas or something
Spirit of
like that,
Christmas. Yes.
Yeah.
it could make a difference in so many lives.
That's so true.
Yes, absolutely.
Although I'm not saying that they're obligated to do that with their money. It's their money. They can do what they want. There's just so many people in need and so many people that could help.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a saying that to whom much is given, much is respected or expected, rather.
Much will be
And if you've
required.
been fortunate enough to have those type of blessings, then one would think that you would hope or would think about people that are less fortunate, and what Joe Tolles is trying to do. And he's basically saying, hey, just buy my book and I'm going to donate 60%. I want to raise $2 million. I'm going to donate 60% to the
That's
foster care.
huge. Yes.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's go on to Got a Minute. Sean's got a minute for us. Sean, you out there?
Good morning to everyone joining in with us. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute. Lately, I've been really into mystery films, and over the weekend, I came across a film called The Moonlight Mile. Loosely inspired by Rebecca Schaefer, a 21-year-old actress who was slain at her Los Angeles home by Robert John Bardot, a mentally unstable man who had been stalking her. Schaefer's demise helped lead to the passage in California of legislation aimed to prevent stalking. Schaefer worked as a teenage model and had a short stint on the daytime opera One Life to Live, but was best known on the television sitcom My Sister Sam. Bardot had written Schaefer letters and unsuccessfully tried to gain access to the set of My Sister Sam before showing up to Schaefer's apartment. The obsessed fan had reportedly obtained the actress's home address through a detective agency, which located it through the records at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. On the day of her demise, Schaefer reportedly complied with Bardot's request for an autograph when he appeared at her home and then asked him to leave. He returned a short time later, and the actress, who reportedly was waiting for someone to deliver a script, answered the door again. Bardot then shot and killed her. 3 years later, California passed the Driver's Privacy Protection Act, which prevented the Department of Motor Vehicles from releasing private addresses. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Shantia Jones, and this is Got a Minute.
All right, man, that's interesting, and Joe Tolles was talking about in this day and time, you just don't know, man. We went into the Waffle House for breakfast a week or so ago, and I walked in and we were walking to our little table, and this guy was just staring at me, and so I kind of stared back at him, and the staring just went on, and I said, well, let me quit staring at this. This guy might be a nut. He might pull a damn AK-47 out of his pocket or something.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
so you just never know. And especially when you achieve a little bit of notoriety like that woman had. And
Right.
you just don't know about people. So, well, let's move on. Let's go on to the G list here. Hollywood's got the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. Now, G list guest today is Tammy McDaniel, owner of Tammys Journeys. Tammy runs a full-service travel agency, And I can attest to the fact that she's a travel tourism master. And so, Tammy, we look forward to talking to you. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Well, you have been in the travel and tourism industry since 1988. What led you to it?
Yes. Well, I was actually in the Air Force and I wanted to think of something that I wanted to do when I retired. So there was this college in Oklahoma City and I took night school for about a year. And then I got out. They actually had a travel agency at Penn Square Mall. So because I guess I was enthused and all that, I worked for their agency part time because they opened until 9 o'clock at night. So I'd go in after my Air Force job and I'd sit there and I'd work as a volunteer. So I didn't get paid because I wanted to learn. And because of that, it got me a job in Atlanta with American Express. So I had to get out of this service because my ex-husband at the time was civil service. And so he got a promotion at Dobbins Air Force Base. So there wasn't any Air Force jobs around. So I ended up getting out, being in the reserve, and then, but taking that initiative got me that job with American Express. And I had to say that American Express, it was a call center. And back in the days with American Express, they had the gold card travel center. It was called Envoy. And so you had to sell everything over the phone. So I always tell everyone that's how I learned how to sell travel. And because you wasn't a meet and greet like I see you and Joyce, right? But it was all over the phone. And I remember the first 3 months I started there, I was coming home being discouraged, crying, because you were monitored on everything that you did. You know, it's a corporate company. So they could tell you how many calls it took for you to make a sale, just everything stats. And when each quarter you were judged. Well, I guess I knew this is something I was going to do for the rest of my life, because I ended up about a year after the crying and learning, just being like a sponge learning the business, I ended up making pace setter for American Express. And pace setter means that within a year that you sold $1 million of travel. And so I became a pace setter. So then my lifetime, so my ex-husband got a job in England at, I think it was Upper Hayford Air Station. Anyway, so we went over there, and so what I ended up doing is I was ended up the special activities coordinator for the Officers Wives Club. So guess what? I was planning day trips, theater trips, shopping trips, and so I kind of stayed in the travel business, and then we ended up moving here, and I started out working back office accounting just to have a job in the travel industry, which helped me a little bit on the accounting side. And actually it helped me now because I own my business. And then I got a job with, I think it was Bounds Village Travel, and then Travel Adventures. And then they got sold. Peggy Wise sold that to another agency. But anyway, I just kept billing, and then they were Navigant Luxury Vacations, which now is owned by Carlson Wagonlit. And I made a gem award. So I always knew that this was something I always wanted to do, because for some reason I was driven, and I'd always be able to get the top prize or, recognized for top sales no matter where I was at. So guess what? One of my clients wanted me to work for him in a private air charter company in Destin. So I said, okay, that would be interesting. So about 4 years, I worked in the private air charter business, and that was very interesting. Actually, so you're talking about sports. The famous Green Bay Packer, is it Bart Starr?
Yes.
He was one of our clients. Yes.
Okay.
And he was so very nice. We took him up to Fan Fest. And so, you got to kind of rub shoulders with a few of the celebrities and all that. Well, anyway, they shut down the business. And then when I decided to go back in the travel business, I said, you know what? I think I've got enough experience. I'm going to start my business. But guess when I started it? In 2011, during what?
Uh,
The real estate, BP oil spill. And so I remember, I remember going to the bank to get my business started. And I said, well, I want to start a travel agency. And they almost laughed me out of the office because, back then I thought, well, number one, the economy around here is terrible. And number two, people book their travel on the internet. So it's kind of nice now, speeding up to 2023. I persevered through that. I persevered through COVID. So that's where I know that, this was my purpose in life, to book travel. And I love what I do. I always still have my pep in my step when I come to the office, even though there's some disastrous things that happen every now and then. And but I think it's just, number one, you're helping people. So I feel like I've always wanted to help people, but helping people in all different circumstances of travel. It's something that's rewarding inside of me. And believe it or not, like last night, I didn't get home probably until about 10 o'clock. But there's sometimes I'll stay until 2 in the morning just to get my stuff done and get it done before the next morning. During COVID, I bought myself a sofa sleeper. So I was able to travel to my office, work, and actually take a nap. But, and then everyone's saying, oh, if they had a shower in that office, you'd be just spending the night. And that's probably true. So thank goodness they don't have shower capabilities here. But, I've just always loved doing what I do. And I think, since 1988, I learn something new every day. I really do. And I think that just all the experiences, everything that I've been able to help people do, it just, when somebody has a situation, you can automatically kind of figure it out and be able to help them. And so really right now, what I would recommend is, with the airlines, I think the airlines, if there's anything that's going to get me to retire, it's the airlines, their schedule changes, their flight cancellations. And, part of the service that we give is that we get that call. It could be in the middle of the night. It could be first thing in the morning, that sort of kind of start out your day not very good, because you could be 2-3 hours just on one call trying to help a client get to their destination. As a matter of fact, a week and a half ago, we tried to help a client who was delayed her flight was out of Kentucky. She had to get to DC to catch her flight over to Athens. And so she never made it. We tried everything possible. And what I learned on that one is that the Jones Act actually is part of European travel too. It affects European travel. And nobody told us that. So we were going to get her to Mykonos, and she was going to get on the ship and join her friends. And we called the cruise lines, and they said, no go. Due to the Jones Act, there's 3 ports that she could have gone into: join the trip in Athens, Rhodes, or Bodrum, Turkey. So it's kind of like the Jones Act in Alaska, where you have to touch a foreign port. So the American citizen, when they board the ship, they have to go to a foreign port and then come back. So that's kind of how the Alaska, no matter where you go in Alaska, you have to go either to Canada, right? You have to go to foreign waters. Well, we just learned that about overseas in Europe, that if you start out in a port like in Athens, Greece, you have to. So she would have gone into Athens, and she would have gone to Turkey or to Rhodes. And anyway, that's how she would have been able to go back and forth to meet the Jones Act. So that's what I'm saying, that, wow, I learn things every day. And probably another thing that I like to do is when people were trying to book on their own, and then they come to us and they give us like just happened this morning. He was on a Holland America trip. He booked it on his own. He had a future cruise certificate, and they told him that, oh, you got to book it by this date here in order to and travel. Well, there's no way he could do that. So he said, oh, I Google travel agencies, and I wanted to see if you could help me. Well, because of our relationship with Holland America, we were able to get his certificate extended until the end of the year, as long as he booked by the 9th of August and then travel by the end of December, then he was able to use the certificate. So it's things like that, the relationships that we have with our vendors, and then the longevity that I've had in this business, that I can help people navigate. I'll tell you, COVID was a good example about navigating and helping people. Sorry, as you can see, I love what I do, so I'm just like talking away.
Well, I will testify to the fact that we have been in foreign countries and things have happened, and my wife says, call Tammy, and we call you and say, Tammy, we're down here in the Dominican Republic and something blah 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 has happened. Can you take? And you always manage to take care of it. So
Yeah.
so let me go to Barbara, and Barbara's got a question for you.
I do.
Barbara?
Hi, how are you, Tammy?
Good.
It's obvious that you are a wonderful, wonderful travel agent. I actually dabbled in the travel agency business myself a little bit after I retired from corporate world, and I became a home-based travel agent. But after COVID, I just decided I'm just kind of washing my hands of it because it's such a challenge, and all the issues we face. You mentioned that the airlines and all the changes they're implementing, and the cancellations and all of that may be something that forced you into retirement, and I can truly understand that. But what are some of the things that you have seen as major issues, especially since COVID, and how did that impact business?
Well, what I can say right now in relation to air travel is that when everybody got back to wanting to travel, there wasn't enough pilots. There's not enough crew. So what's the challenging part right now for us is the fact that if you look at for example, Fort Walton Beach, if you look at their airline schedule, we'll use Delta for an example, they've reduced their schedule. They've actually taken out like at least 2 flights out of the day. So example, you've got to make sure that your flight can meet the flight that leaves like at 6:15 from Atlanta down to Fort Walton Beach, because if you don't, guess what? You've got to wait until like that 10:55 p.m. flight. So you're there at the Atlanta airport for 4 hours. And I think they took the 9:15 in the morning flight from Fort Walton, to Atlanta. So that's just here. And so they've had to downsize these flights all over the country. And so that's a problem. That's where you have your schedule changes. That's where you have like your cancellations. And if you don't have a travel advisor, for example, with my clients, when they took that 9:15 out, they just threw them on a flight through Minneapolis. They were in first class, but guess what? They didn't have any seats in first class, so they just moved into the back of the plane and gave them seats on the last row, right? And I saw that, and I thought it was petrified. But some of the things that you need to know about the airline for everyone is that if there's a major schedule change, if they canceled your flight or it's like at least an hour time difference, then you have the right to pick your flight. So you just call the airline up or you call your travel advisor and say, okay, they schedule us. We were supposed to be scheduled at 9:15 and they got us leaving at 11. Now we're not getting to like Vancouver until like 10 o'clock. Well, you just go to the airline's website, you find a flight that you want in the class of service that you booked. You call the airlines up and say, as long as you provide them that information, there should be no cost in changing that if it's a major change or cancellation. That's one thing. Another thing that's really important to know as well, and they emphasize it, but I want to definitely tell everybody, is that when you buy your airline ticket And this has even happened to us, where we're thinking that we've booked the right day, going to the right destination, we get the ticket, and either the client calls or we find out that, oh, this is the wrong destination, there's a name change that's wrong, something in there that's not right. You have 24 hours from the time that you book that ticket to cancel that, and you get a full refund. So just keep in mind, most of the major airlines, if you purchase a ticket, even in the basic economy class, as long as it's canceled within 24 hours, you'll get a refund. So that's a little bit of reprieve. And in that, because not a lot of the airlines probably don't really want you to know that, but it's a comforting feeling. So a lot of times when I'll book my clients, I said, you get a full refund. Let's just book it, because I don't know if the seats are going to be available tomorrow. And if you don't need it, we can cancel it tomorrow.
It's great.
Okay, Michael.
Yes. Good morning, Tammy. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, good morning.
I want to ask you a question. I have two questions. First question is this: what's the most remote travel destination have you booked, or have you been on yourself?
Remote.
Like no cell phone and this and that, you know?
Oh, well, I don't know if Easter Island counts or not, because I've got, I don't know how civilized it is, but Easter Island is that island that has all those unique statues that they have no idea where they came from, and they're kind of like scattered all over the island. And that was fun, to try to get, clients to places, very unique places. I would say, to be honest with you, Thom's going to a place that there's not going to be any cell phone service for a while, and that's Glacier National Park. Because Glacier Bay, with all those mountains and all that, there's going to be a period of time where there's not going to be any, cell phone service remoteness. And I'm going to go back to the national park, because being in the United States and being remote, that's the beauty of taking a chance of going to Alaska and seeing the vastness and really appreciating the government setting back this land, protecting this land, because that's why I go back year after year. So I usually try to go to Alaska about once a year, take a group or travel, usually take one group, just because of the fact that I don't know, number one, how long there's going to be glaciers because of, global warming and melting and all that, because Mendenhall Glacier, as a matter of fact, in Juneau, I have noticed since I first went to Juneau and went to see Mendenhall Glacier, how it's receded, and all that. But so you can find remoteness right here in the United States when you go into the mountains where it's so closed in that you have no cell phone service. But I got to say that some of the unique islands would probably be, because cell phone service and towers and satellites now, so it's almost like you can almost get to most places, but it's certain areas where, not even the satellites can, find you or whatever. But I would have to say that it's more, like if they want to go on their own island, let's say the South Pacific, and they've rented a private yacht and captain to take them to, unique islands and all that. So I've had clients that have asked for trips, but I hadn't asked them about the cell phone service, but I know that they're going to an island that nobody else goes to. So to answer your question, I really, I know that there's some places, but I don't know with the exact amount now with satellites and being able to use your phones in conjunction with satellites, because you've heard about like the airlines now going to G5 and or 5G, 5G. And there's something to do with that 5G that has a big impact, that you have better cell phone service. And I'm thinking that 5G might have to do with this. I haven't researched it, but with satellite now to get better service and stuff. So it's just amazing. it's amazing. We're unfortunate that, yes, you can be contacted most anywhere in the world, but it's nice to know, Thom, in your case, that there's one piece of America that you may not be able to be reached at while you're visiting, Glacier Bay.
You booked a trip for my friends in Birmingham, the Graffios. I think they went to Ireland. And
Oh, Ireland and Scotland.
It's Scotland. And then as part of that, you got them tickets to go see Eric Clapton. And he still talks about that. So I guess sometimes as a travel agent, you get some different request type things. Huh?
Oh yeah, many requests. So Michael, you had that other question. Did I answer what you needed?
Yes, my other question was that it seems like a lot of people are into adventure travel. So could you give me an idea of some of the adventure travel destinations there are, and what is the adventure?
Well, adventure. I think Thom's a adventure traveler. He likes to bike. So, there's a company like Backroads, and you can go all over the world and do biking tours. You can do hiking tours like the Dolomites, in northern Italy. So adventure travel now is more of being outdoors, biking, hiking. I would say some of that adventure travel would be possibly going on an African safari. That's a different type of adventure experience. But it seems like more people now, I think, like I would say in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? They're doing that adventure. Because I'm thinking the same thing that they're thinking when they come in. How long am I going to be able to be this agile, be able to hike and bike? So I think that they're taking care of those bucket list type trips at this age, knowing, and I can testify to that because goodness me, like once my clients are in their mid 70s, now they're coming in like, oh, I better get that wheelchair to help me get from gate to gate, kind of thing like that.
Right.
But adventure travel it's really, very, very popular. And so they may get to a destination, but they may want to like a walking tour or a biking tour. So yeah, it's really a trend. It's an uphill trend right now. But I have to say that, well, the younger generation, they've always done that. But what I've seen a spike in is the 40s, 50s, 60s. And anyway, and in the 60s, I'm right with them with that because I'm in my 60s. So I can say that, yeah, I'm right with you. I'll probably want to try to do that too before I have any walking issues.
Well, I'll testify to the fact that Tammy did us a trip to Paris and to Rome, and I had a bicycle in both places and rode all
He had
over
it delivered.
both places.
Yeah, he had it
Yes.
delivered to his his condo. Yeah, and then he had a private guide, right, to take you around, show you the routes.
Yeah, we rode, man. It was great. And,
that's great.
Yeah, so Tammy is a miracle worker as far as the travel goes.
That's what you need. That's what you want when you're traveling. That's for sure.
Other questions, Michael and Barbara?
Tammy, I have a question. If someone is interested in international travel and they come to you, not really sure where they want to go or whatever, how do you help them, guide them into choosing the location? And then what all would they need to do? If someone's interested in, say, going to international travel in September or something, how early should they start the process? What about the passport? All of that. What advice would you give them?
So when people are wanting to travel international now, the first thing when they come to the office, we'll ask them, do you have a passport and when does it expire? Because really the rule of thumb is that when you travel, your return date, your passport should be valid 6 months after your return date. And then once we know that they've got the passport, then we narrow it down. So kind of ask them where they want to go, what kind of things that they like to do. But well, I'll tell you the honest truth now. Most people, when they come into our office now, know what they want because guess what? They've done the legwork. They've done the research on the internet. So
Right.
now it's just, this is what we want to do, but we don't know how to do it. It's kind of, that's the question now. But if anybody has no clue, like I've got a client right now, well, we want to go someplace warm and do an all-inclusive. Well, there's like three or four places that I'd recommend, and I'm just waiting for them to decide which destination that they want to go to for the all-inclusives. So when they give you a general question like that, I'll pick like 4 destinations that have what they're initially wanting, and then
Right.
letting them kind of pick from there, and then then customize it for them. But I'll tell you another thing that's really popular right now, and I'm actually headed out on Saturday, are guided tours. And guided tours I'm seeing a trend now. We're to like 40s, 50s, 60s on up, where it used to be guided tours were more mid 60s and higher. But people are really like the guided tours now. The guided tours are nice because of the fact that instead of back in the days when we were planning our travel, we got to go see this and got to see that. And then we had to do all the research and figuring out what we were seeing. We got there, but now we got to read everything. And sometimes it's in a foreign language. We got a brochure. We got to like look and see what we're seeing. But what the nice beauty of guided tours is the fact that now you can get to the destination, try to pick what I call easy paced guided tours where they're staying in one location, maybe multiple days instead of one day. But you're seeing the key sites and somebody's telling you all about it and the knowledge, the history and all that. So it's really nice to know that what I'm actually seeing, I'm like trying to read what I'm seeing, but it's, and hearing and getting access. So when you go on guided tours, people may be waiting in line, but you have a time. And so you're bypassing the lines when you go to some of these major attractions. I'll give you an example, like the Louvre would be a good example, or the Vatican. So, and Thom, you did a private tour at the Vatican. So you know how important that is to have that reservation. But with guided tours like that, that's it. You've got it's like your private guide to take you through those tours. So it sets the worry, and it makes your vacation so much easier and relaxing. So, but there's variance on, tours, and we can guide you one that's more fast paced, that you go to more places and you're only there for maybe one night. Or if you're the type, they've got like spotlight tours where you fly in, you may be in Venice for one night, but then the rest of the time, the rest 5 nights, you might be in Tuscany. And then it's kind of like that hub and spoke. Each day you're going out to different destinations to see the area.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Yes, Tammy, I'd like to ask you this question. Are there any places just off limits that you do not recommend Americans to travel to, or based on some government regulations or things that's happening, just will not advise your clients do not go there?
We haven't gotten into that situation where anybody has actually wanted to go to a destination that that I would recognize just being on the news, not a good place to go. But we also tell people to go, because I think it's state gov. Anyway, it's the U.S. State Department website. That is a great place to go. You just type in your country and you'll see the advisory if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. So that's a good resource. I have it on my website under helpful hints, and I have all different links about travel. But that's one way to start, is just to go to the State Department and pull up that country. Oh,
Okay.
uh-oh.
What?
There we go. And to pull up the country and to learn about, if it's a safe place to be. You'd be surprised on places that we typically go. If we did the reverse, you'd be surprised where the United States is, at, right? If you're coming in from a foreign country, you need to research what they see about America, because I don't think we're like one of the safest places to go to in the world. But what I'm just saying is that the main thing that you've got to, when you're traveling, is just, you got to just follow the rules. Don't just sling that purse behind you or keep a wallet like it's bulging out or whatever. You just have to practice, safe travel. And once you do that, and once you, and I guess what you also have to learn is you get what you pay for. So stay at places, at least like a 3.5, 4-star hotel in Europe, somewhere safe. So pay that little extra money to be in a place that that there's not going to be somebody that, as soon as you leave that room, has got a pass key and looking for what you need and all that. I carry like a strap bag, and that everything is right in front of me when I travel. Even my passport, but I keep it in there, and it's one of those bags that I can put on my jacket, and then if I zip up. So I usually try to travel with something that there's, like, there's always a possibility, but there's less of possibility that somebody that's trying to rob me will, take anything important that I have. But yeah, I would just say to go to the State Department website, number one, to find out countries that are definitely, unsafe to travel. Here's a good example: Russia. So that would be a country. But you know what? There's a lot of people that want to go to Russia. They want to go because Russia used to be one of our top sellers for river cruises, in St. Petersburg, Moscow, because there's some great museums there. There's great sites there. But right now, Russia, as you know, is a good example of no travel, no traveling for US citizens. So, but that's a shame, because they did have a lot to offer. We did a lot of river cruises to Russia, prior to everything, changing like it did.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on. Tammy, thank you so much. It's been great. We appreciate you. And I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon.
Oh, yeah. Have a great time on your trip. And
Okay.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Barbara and Michael. And if you have any questions, feel free to just email me. And like Thom said, I'll be able to get you an answer one way or another. Right, Thom?
All right. Thank you, Tammy.
Very good. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
Okay, my closing comments, or as I see it, Sue Johansson. You probably never heard of her. Her famous words were, "I regard sex as a gift from God." The blunt, beloved Canadian once said on her Sunday night sex show, she had a Sunday night sex show, Talk Sex with Sue Johansson. She became a media star in midlife, and she died in late June at the age of 92. There was a documentary about her. It says, Sex with Sue. She said she started in midlife, and she said, "I wasn't young, I wasn't beautiful, I didn't have bodacious tatas. I was a mother with 3 children and a load of information." And every Sunday night, she answered questions about sex, straight sex, gay sex, all kinds of fantasies. Her show hit its peak in the early 2000s with nearly 100,000 calls coming in and screened by operators. Sue got her start in radio. Sunday Night Sex Show first aired on Canadian television in 1996. In 2002, the Oxygen Network commissioned an American version, but before long in Canada, Miss Johansson could not ride the subway without being approached to answer sex questions. With the advent and popularity of the internet, the callers became less and less because people could get the information they needed directly from the internet, and it was time to end the show. In her final episode, Miss Johansson said, "I love doing this show. There will be a big hole in my heart." And that's our show for today, the 18th of July, and that's how I see it. So let's move on. We want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. We want to thank our G-List guest, Tammy. We want to thank our sponsor, Best Girl. Thank Barbara, Sean, Emily, Joyce, and Michael. And that's it for this July 18th. Remember, enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.